a lot of you feel that everyone should vote, and I respect that, and I think that that's a credible point of view. But I wanted to really sort of break down the difference between symbolism and substance, and really talk to you about some real economic facts, things that you really should know about as well, particularly as it relates to what's happening in this economy, and also what's going to happen to those who remain asleep during this economy. There are some people who are asleep, some people who are 100% woke, and I'll explain what that means in a minute. All right, so before I start, I want to mention that the Black AI conference is this weekend, by the way. And so if you want to join us, the URL is blackaiconference.com. And what I'll do is I'll grab the link and just put the link in the chat too, so you guys can grab it and come on in if you want to network with experts and people that can help you figure things out. Also, later on today, this afternoon, if you are a stock market investor and you want to ask me questions and find out what stocks I'm buying and talk to me about that type of stuff, you can go to drboycestockmarket.com. That's drboycestockmarket.com. That's this afternoon, so feel free to join us. All right, so let me first mention this. First off, there is something happening in the economy, and I read about this. Morgan Stanley issued a warning. By the way, the link's right in there if you want to click on the link to go to the conference. Morgan Stanley issued this warning about something that I thought about it, but it was interesting to see how they spoke about it in a certain way. And by the way, Erica, I do see your question. But if I answer the question, I'm gonna lose my train of thought and my ADHD will kick in. It'll just be a big mess. I'll be word vomiting everywhere, and I don't want y'all to. That's just nasty. You don't want to see all that. So put your question in the Q&A section, Erica, and we'll make a few minutes to answer a question. So just copy and paste it in the Q&A section. Um, yeah. So what Morgan Stanley warned about was something that's happening in the economy that's probably going to get worse. And this thing that they talked about was something called a jobless recovery or either a jobless expansion or jobless growth. And what I want you to um, understand as we explain this and how this jobless growth thing works. First off, I'm going to show you one of the biggest pieces of evidence that you do already have this happening. If you go look at the net worth of Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos and how much they were worth 10 years ago versus how much they're worth now, you would see this massive growth in their net worth. Mark Zuckerberg worth probably $100 billion more than what he was 10 years ago. But if you go look at the average American worker, how many of you know? Give me a yes if you know that minimum wage has barely budged. Give me a yes if you noticed that. Give me a yes if you've noticed that pay raises really aren't that strong. Right? Employees are not typically getting that much more money. Right? They want to make sure you get enough to survive so that you don't die. In between shifts. But for the most part, they're not really out here fighting to make sure workers get what they're owed and everything else, right? And what they're worth. And so what's really occurred, and this is going to lead to my second point that I'm going to make, which I know it's always controversial when I talk about politics and voting, but I just don't give a damn because you got it. You're gonna either you're gonna learn today, and if you don't learn today, you're gonna learn tomorrow. They gonna bash that lesson in your head whether you want to hear it or not. But anyway, what's happening is basically what Morgan Stanley warned about is they said you're no longer in the regime where you could look at things like gross domestic product or the state of the economy and get a sense of how the average American citizen is doing. That there is a detachment, there's a disentanglement between the fate of the American worker and the fate of the American economy. Tell me if you get what I'm saying. I'm going to say this slowly so that I don't lose anybody here. So basically, what can happen is you can have a massive, 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 massive economic expansion that misses 80% of the population, right? Like you can literally have an expansion that it's so think of it like this. This is how I used to visualize this mathematically. When we used to do everything. If you want to know what it's like in a finance PhD program, it's imagine like a complete torture chamber where everything is written in mathematics. Everything you explain, you can't walk up and say, well, like what it is, son, is it's like this. You know what I mean? Know what I'm saying? No, you had to go on the chalkboard and write up an equation and explain mathematically what you were talking about. So basically, I'll never forget when I was sitting there in a class. The class is called asset pricing, and by the University of Chicago is the best school on earth for asset pricing. And my dissertation chairman, Andrew Carolla, who's at Cornell, he was teaching asset pricing to us, and I was proud because he told me I was the best asset pricing student that he had, that I did really good on his test, and he was right. He was drawing up in mathematically, these equations, and I looked at it. I remember saying, I said, okay, so what you're saying based on this math is you're saying that you can have a situation where literally one guy has all the wealth and 99% of the people are poor, but yet you can conclude that that society is better off than it would be otherwise. That literally distribution means almost nothing in some of these scenarios. So the way to visualize it would be, imagine if you got three kids and you got the big kid and the two little ones, and you put 10 pounds of food, or let's say three cheeseburgers that you leave for the kids, right? And once in one scenario, all each child gets their own cheeseburger. Okay, so then let's say that you put nine cheeseburgers, you leave nine cheeseburgers for the kids. And let's say this time, though, the oldest kid eats eight of them and makes the other two share the last one, right? Clearly, the second scenario is not fair. Clearly, you're going to have one really obese kid and you're going to have two little starving, skinny kids looking like they own an infomercial, right? Or something, right? But imagine if somebody simply measured the quality of life in that household by how much food was delivered to the house. And somebody says, hey, clearly everybody in the house is doing better because they got nine cheeseburgers now instead of just three, so everybody's eating good. Well, that doesn't actually apply if there's no rules of distribution. Do you understand? Let me know if you get what I'm saying. Let me know if you get what I'm saying. Like that fair economics requires rules of the road. Somebody has to say to the kids, like, hey, make sure you share with your sister. Make sure your baby brother eats too, right? And that's the job. That's typically the job of the government, right? But here's the problem. The government isn't a government anymore. The government, imagine in that same household, and let's say that instead of having two parents that love all the kids, making sure everybody eats, let's say instead of that, let's say the parents are dead. Somebody kills the parents, and then the oldest child is the government. He's the parent. He's the older brother, but he's also the mama and the daddy, and he's making all the rules. Well, then you're going to have, as Alice says, tyranny. That's what you're going to have. And so you're gonna have, and let's say he's a greedy bastard, who doesn't care about anybody but himself. Then he's gonna literally say, "Oh, we're doing good. We're eating good over here. I had eight cheeseburgers today," and he's not gonna even stop to say, to talk about his starving sibling that he's, keeping in the closet. So ultimately, this is American society. This is the direction that it's going. Trump is just the latest in that trajectory toward tyranny. This has been going on since the 1970s. This is a 50-year process. Trump is just a blatant culmination of many decades of that tyranny, of that sort of disproportion, of that lack of balance. He's like, what Trump reminds me of? You ever hear a prostitute, who is complaining about being judged for being a prostitute, and the prostitute says, "Come on, all these women out here, they selling it too. They just selling it in a different way, right?" Well, the prostitute kind of has a point, right? Really, like if I was to ask you all, who's more attractive, a rich man or a broke man? Most of y'all gonna say a rich man, right? If I said, do you think that a rich guy, a guy with $100 million, has an easier time getting sex than a guy with that works at Burger King? Everybody in this room would agree with me, and those of you who don't agree, you out here lying. Just stop lying, stop lying. Okay, so she has a point. But what Trump is like the prostitute who just says, "Look, you've been trading sex for money for a long time. I'm just making it clear. I'm creating clarity in the transaction so that nobody has to live under any illusion." But at the same time, it is different, right? It is different. There's still a difference between, being attracted to the rich guy versus walking up to the rich guy and saying, "Hey, you give me some money, I'll give you some cookies," right? You know what I'm talking about because the kids are watching. So the point of the matter is to say that this imbalance is what's created the economic problems that you're about to see now. So right now, what's happened is that artificial intelligence, which is clearly something that's incredibly powerful, that's something that should be, you know, deeply regulated, is just hitting the world like a firestorm. And you have an administration that is not in the business of regulating how artificial intelligence gets rolled out. In fact, they're so committed to not regulating things that they want to pass a law saying that states cannot regulate AI for 10 years. They want to pass a federal law saying that it's illegal for any state to regulate how people use AI, the internet, all this stuff. Because and their argument is that this is going to slow progress and we need to have this stuff out here. We need to deploy it fast so we can beat China, right? And you can debate that, right? But what one of the consequences of that lack of regulation, of the idea of the fat older brother running the entire family, is that you have this jobless growth that is occurring. And let's go back to that. So the job of the Federal Reserve, for the most part, the Fed has what they call a dual mandate, and the dual mandate is full employment and low inflation, but also they're measured heavily by gross domestic product. So basically, what the Fed will look at is they'll look at unemployment rates, they'll look at GDP. If GDP is negative, they'll say the economy's bad, we're in a recession. That's how they define recessions, by GDP growth. And then also they go look at inflation. Are prices too high? And when one of those prices that they look at is the price of labor. The price of labor. So here's where jobless growth comes into the picture. This is what the future looks like. So basically, you have an economy that, because you've got, we do have millions of illegal immigrants that came into the country, and that's a controversial issue. But also we have millions of new immigrants called chatbots and called AI agents, and they're literally coming into these companies. The biggest industry right now in AI is learning how to implement agents and AI, agentic AI, into the business so that you can hire fewer people, so that you can be more efficient, so you can make more money with less labor. So effectively, the growth is happening because as AI is proliferated and as more companies are using AI, you're seeing a massive, massive spike in company productivity. Do you follow what I'm saying? Let me know if you give me a quick yes. Let me know if everybody's following me, so I don't, if I got to repeat something, I don't want to lose anybody. Okay. So companies are more productive than ever. They're better at making money than they've ever been. Their profits are skyrocketing. And that's part of the reason why you've been making so much freaking money in the stock market. If you haven't been investing, it's like that song, if you have no penny, a hay penny will do. If you have no hay penny, then God bless you, right? So if you have not been investing, then God bless you, right? If you don't have 10 stocks, one stock will do. If you have no stock at all, then God bless you. Because I've been talking to you guys about this for a long time, and I'm not here to say I told you so, but I'm here to say I'm telling you now. The stock market is a reflection of the shifting economy. So basically, the jobless growth occurs because, one, the Fed will turn and they'll say, "Oh my God, GDP is exploding. It's amazing. Why is it exploding? Well, because companies are more productive. Productivity increases gross domestic product. That's a tried and true economic principle." On the other hand, they're going to then look over and say, okay, as the economy typically explodes, we usually have an inflationary problem, right? That's the issue. That's what tends to happen when the economy sinks. When they increase, what they do is they increase the money supply, which increases inflation just enough to get it going, like putting air in your tires, basically. That's what it's kind of doing. Like, so you inflate the economy. You want a little inflation so you can get the economy kind of going. You don't want too much because then prices spiral out of control. Well, when they look at inflation, though, they're going to see low inflation. Why? Well, because one of the biggest variables in the inflation conversation is the cost of labor. So when companies are realizing that, hey, wait, I can pay a robot less than a person, then that means you'll have companies that are going to make ridiculous amounts of money and not need very many human beings to do it. That's why at some point, Amazon will have far more robots than people. They're just not telling you because they know that you're going to freak out if they do. So they just lie to you and they say, no, 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 AI is not replacing anybody. No, it's going to replace a lot of people. It's going to anybody who doesn't get in touch with what's going on, they're going to get replaced, most likely. The people that hate AI, and say I'm against AI, you, you probably would have an easier time going to drink the Pacific Ocean. That it would be you just go to the Pacific Ocean and just like put your mouth in the water and try to drink the entire ocean because you have a greater likelihood of accomplishing that than you do of stopping what is already happening, right? So the best chances that you have to survive in that economy are one, to master the beast, like understand what's going on and be a part of that, and two, to invest in that so that when they're making their money, you're making your money, right? Like a lot of you, if I was to ask you, give me a yes if you've been making money in the stock market. I want to know, I want to see how many of you are making money. That makes me feel good. I love to know that your lives are better. So give me a yes if you're making money in this market. Well, then that's because what you've done is you've used something to your advantage called correlation. You've correlated your economic fate to the economic fate of the people that are going to be making the most money. You just hitched your wagon onto their wagon. A lot of people think that in order to make your wagon move down the street, your wagon has to have an independent engine that where you're doing all the work, or either you're pedaling your bike or you whatever, and you're making your bike move. And God bless you for that. But sometimes you move faster if you just take your bike and attach it to somebody's car and just let the car do all the work. So these economic engines are precise and powerful and strong. Microsoft, Amazon, all these major corporations. And when you are an investor, what you're basically doing is you are tying your fate to their fate. You're saying, hey, look, I don't know if this ship's going to sink or if this ship's going to fly, but either way, I want to sit where the rich people are because I know the rich people are always going to look out for themselves first. And this gets to the point where I end up getting in trouble because I sound controversial when I say this. I think about how we raise our children, and we raise our children to understand two really important things that they must do. One, you must get a job, and two, you must vote. And if you're a Democratic family, you must be a Democrat because that's the only thing that you can ever be because you're not allowed to be anything else, right? Or whatever. And that's fine. I don't care about that part. Keep being a Democrat, keep being a Republican. That's on you. Keep voting. Voting's okay. That's it feels good. Great, sure. But here's the thing. When I look back and I look for real outcomes, I look for real results. I look at people's lives and I say, what's really improving your life? I have a hard time finding evidence that the black community's existence has improved, despite the fact that we vote in every single election. And do you understand what I'm saying? Are you able to hear me without hearing? I don't want to get into this whole like Dr. Boyce is telling people not to vote thing. No, I'm just that I don't I, that debate is that we had that debate back in 2017. So please don't make me go backward in time. I'm trying to be a forward-looking black man, not a backward-looking Negro. So let's not have that debate anymore. Back in the did he vote or die days, we had those debates. I don't have those debates anymore. You can do whatever you want to do. But what I'm saying to you is if you disagree, I just say, I tell people, just prove me wrong. That's it. Just prove me wrong because when you prove me wrong, then I'm going to listen to you. I don't know if you're going to listen to me. I hope that you will. I'm a professor. I know a couple of things, but prove me wrong. Like I need you to show me where any of this stuff has improved. The black family, the state of the black family. Show me where it's improved black wealth. I don't think you can find evidence of that. Show me where it's improved. Like I can probably point to 10 neighborhoods in Chicago where you have a very good chance of being shot on a Tuesday, right? Or some black person's going to die in that neighborhood. And that hasn't changed. And these districts are usually run by people that are Democrats, right? And that's so that we can't just say, well, Trump did that, right? I don't, he's not, I don't know. Again, it's up to you to decide. But then I can go into education. I don't think our kids are getting the education they deserve. They're not being prepared for the future. You had 18 years to prepare them. There's 157,800 hours between the time a child is born and the time they turn 18. Why is no one using that 157,800 hours to prepare them for the future? I mean, really prepare them to succeed. Again, they're very well prepared to become rappers, basketball players, professional twerkers, or whatever it is that you're. But I don't see a lot of preparation for the economic challenges that lie ahead. The ones that are not prepared are going to get slaughtered in this new economy, 100%. So here's what I'm going to propose, right? Just so that people who grew up in a certain political tradition don't sort of find me as the enemy. I'm not your enemy. Your enemy is the oppression that awaits you. Your enemy is economic stress. Your enemy is racism. Your enemy is all the stuff out there in the world that wants to keep you from being happy. That's the enemy. I'm not the enemy. I'm not even the messenger. I'm kind of the messenger, but it's a biased message. It's my message and whatever. So, but here's the thing. I want us to consider this. Tell me if we can agree on this. Okay, give me a guess if this is cool. I believe that in order for us to prepare for this new economy, we have to make sure that our children are taught to invest as much as we teach them to vote, that they are as committed to investing as they are to voting. Is that okay? Tell me if it's okay if we train our kids to be as committed to investing as we commit are committed to teaching them how to get a job. Or can they be as committed to investing as we are committed to making sure our kids know how to play football, as committed to investing as we are to making sure our kids know how to play basketball, as committed to investing as we are to making sure little black girls know how to go get their hair done, as committed to investing as we are to dancing and cooking and singing and everything else that we do really well. I think investing has to just really be a part of the black culture, like in a very deep, meaningful way, because investing is essential for your survival in a very cutthroat economy. And I have to say this clearly and repetitively because I believe that there are so many forces in this world that are solely designed for the manipulation and the exploitation of black people that I repeat my message over and over and over and over and over and over and over again because there's so much noise out here that's guiding you to nothing but sadness, misery, and frustration. There are people in this world who truly believe that the job of a black man or black woman in America is to suffer. That life for you is supposed to be hard, that everything's supposed to be unfair, that you're always supposed to be a day late, a dollar short, under the rug, getting your butt kicked, left behind, and forgotten. And this is not to me a Republican or Democrat thing. They all do it. They all do it. But they had the whole debate about the National Guard in Chicago and all that stuff, and I don't know, whatever you believe. But I was like, how come there are black neighborhoods where children are being murdered every week, and you're not saying a thing about it? If those were white children getting killed in those neighborhoods, you would have all kinds of police and National Guard up in there. You'd be like, we got to stop this by any means necessary. So when they say, well, I live in Chicago. When they say, "Oh, Chicago's great, Chicago's wonderful," I'm like, are you talking about your Chicago? Or the other Chicago, our Chicago, because our Chicago, everything ain't great, right? And what that reminds me of is it's the same way with the economy. You've got now, except in this case, it's not black or white, it's not Democrat versus Republican. It really is the haves and the have-nots. So here's the economy you're going to see going forward. You're going to see an economy where there are going to be people who say, "Oh my God, the economy is great. We broke another record this year. Oh my God, gross domestic product keeps growing. We can't stop it. It's just the American avalanche. America is such an exceptional country." And then you're going to have the other side of America, the underbelly of America, where they're going to say, "Wait, what are you talking about? This is not our country." And you already see it. You already see it. If you talk to somebody who's working and making minimum wage or even slightly above minimum wage, they're not gonna sit around and talk about how amazing the economy is because who the hell can survive off $10, $15 an hour? And then on top of that, there's no training on economic survival skills, like, for example, how essential things like family are for economic survival. So we're so primitive. We still think that you date people based on how cute they are, right? And I want to know, can you help me survive out in this thing? Because I'm a black man and it's hard. Last thing I need is a black woman who can't bring nothing positive to the table to help us both survive, or a woman that's going to drain all my money so that I end up here struggling like everybody. I'm not doing that. Right? So I just really think that the whole education in terms of preparation for kids, we gotta take control of this. We have to be the arbiters of our children's futures. We have to make that decision because ain't nobody else gonna do it for you. Ain't nobody else gonna do it. So yes, that jobless growth is happening. It's not coming. It's already here, man. It's already been happening. AI just accelerates the whole process. It's just moving it along, moving it along. And eventually there's going to be civil unrest and lots of unhappy people, and I don't want you to be unhappy. I want you to be, I guess when society falls apart, I want you to be able to go back into your mansion and put up your gates and be safe with your family. I'm not telling you to be elitist, but there's no reason for you to have to suffer when you every single morning you're talking to somebody who understands the economics of this society pretty well. And you have other people that can help you with this as well. And I think that one thing I'm really proud of mostly is not so much just my economic understanding, and I do understand it pretty well, is that I like the fact I actually enjoy the fact that I'm not a person that has a lot of time for bullshit. I don't, if something does not add up, I'm not gonna participate. I'm not gonna talk about something that's stupid. It's like, why would we do that? That don't even make no sense. I need to know that 2 plus 2 is 4. That's just, it's just there. Like if you're telling me 2 plus 2 is 187, I'll be like, what are you talking about? Shut up. We ain't nobody got time for that, right? So no nonsense, man. These are our kids. It's our responsibility. It's our community. These are our women, our men, our families, our people. We got this. We're supposed to handle this. Hey, I ain't waiting on Trump. I ain't waiting on Kamala. I ain't waiting on nobody. Because you'll just be waiting. You'll just be waiting. That's what these politicians will have you out here waiting. All right. So Chandra says I keep freezing. Am I freezing or am I clear? Let me know if you can hear me okay. Let me know if I'm coming through all right. Um, I'm going to answer a few questions in the Q&A section. If you're not in the Zoom and you want to be invited, just pull out your phone, text the word morning to the number 87948. Text morning to 87948, and I'll invite you to come into the private Zoom. So type the word morning in your phone, text it to 87948. Also, this weekend we're doing the Black AI conference, and it's going to be digital, so you can do it from anywhere. I'll put the link in the chat if you want to sign up, and I hope you guys will come out and hang out with us. There's regular passes and VIP and all that, and it's networking and all this other stuff. There's a lot you can actually do with Zoom. I didn't know that, but you can actually set Zoom up pretty well to let people talk to each other and meet each other and all that. So we've incorporated a lot of networking into the conference. So feel free to participate. And you heard from 3 of our AI experts yesterday. We're going to bring some more in tomorrow, and you'll get a chance to hear their perspective and not just mine. So anyway, and I believe deeply in AI, and you guys have been talking about it a lot and asking about it. So I said, okay, let's do something related to AI. So it's blackaiconference.com. If you don't see the link, that's blackaiconference.com. All right, so let me answer some questions here. All right, so the discount code, Dwayne, I don't know if the code still works now, but if you try Black AI Enhanced, all one word, Black AI Enhanced, that if you go to blackaiconference.com and use the code Black AI Enhanced, it will take I think 48% off. I think the code might still be working. I'm not sure, but feel free to go take a look at that. If you have a question, put it in the Q&A section so I can make sure I see it. But Erica, since you're special, I'm going to answer yours, even though it's in the chat. But if you could put it in the Q&A, that makes it easier for me. Y'all don't want to trigger my ADHD. It's terrible when it happens. The difference between the stock market program and Prime is the stock market program is focused solely on stock market investing. So we go through portfolio allocation, diversification, different stocks you can invest in. It's more so, it really is structured based on how I structure my own portfolio. I have one portfolio that's just the wealth portfolio. That's all it's designed to do. It's long-term assets that are designed to create that generational wealth. I hope I don't have to sell any of these stocks until I die and I pass them to the kids and the grandkids and all that. And so that's a type of investing. That's long-term buy and hold, that kind of thing. But then Prime is focused on one thing, or two things actually, income and consistency. So it's a science that focuses on picking certain stocks. I would almost call these like thoroughbred stocks, like stocks that actually are designed to generate income because they have a lot of volatility. So these are like wild Broncos, and the Broncos can actually generate a lot of cash flow, but you have to own a certain number of the shares to make it happen. And you have to kind of know how to respond when the market kind of acts crazy. So these stocks will kind of test you a little bit because it's kind of like taking in some like really violent kids into your house but they're paying you lots of money to do it. So you have to know how to handle children in order to run a house like that, like Mrs. Garrett on Facts of Life or something, right? So anyway, if you're interested in the stock market class, you can go to drboystockmarket.com. We meet this afternoon. And it's also great for beginners, stuff like that. If you're interested in the income side, you can go to drboyceprime.com. And I separated the two because actually my portfolio is separated like that too. I have one portfolio that's designed solely to give me income to pay bills. I have another portfolio that's designed for generational wealth. Because this is what you need in order to be financially secure for the most part. You need two things. You need wealth and income. That's it. That's literally what that's so when I named my mastermind, I was like, oh yeah, let's call it the Wealth and Income Network. But if we achieve those two goals, then we're good. If you have enough income, that gives you cash flow to pay bills. And then if you have wealth, that gives you financial security, assets that you can liquidate in case you have a financial shock or financial emergency. And actually, in business, when you start your business, those are two aspects that matter, right? More businesses die due to a lack of cash flow than there are that die due to a lack of profitability. So never think that one is more important than the other. All right, so let's see here. Watson says, Doc, I could have sworn I heard you say that you were going live on Prime yesterday. I didn't get the link. I logged in on Prime. I see the link is for the 20th. Yeah, we're gonna meet on the 20th. But what I did do, I think what you might have heard me say is that I wanted to answer all your questions. So send me your questions, and you guys did. You guys sent me a lot of questions. I spent all day, not all day, a bunch of time yesterday answering a lot of your questions. And I went and I'm gonna text that link out to you today. So if you want to get it via text, make sure you're on the text list. Text the word options to the number 87948. So text options to 87948. We're getting profit alerts in Prime now, or is this with Win? I try to just get profit alerts whenever I can, just based on whatever type of investing you're doing. So if I see opportunities, I like to share that. And so, like stuff like Oklo, because I listen to a lot of financial stuff and analysis, and all I do that's in case you want to know like a good way to grow financially. I don't look at investing and wealth as like a vacuum. Like I don't look at wealth as like isolated from every other part of my life because I started thinking deeply about what does wealth really mean? And it can't just be money. That's very depressing to think that wealth is just money, new cars, like big houses and material possessions or Hermes bag. Um, no, I think wealth is really anything that you have in your life that's valuable. And how do I know that? Well, because told you, if I said, how much money can I pay you to get you to cut off your left leg? You would say, absolutely. There is no amount of money. I don't want to lose my left leg. I'm not selling my leg for $10 million, right? Or if I said, how much wealth? I did that with an 18-year-old I was talking to, and I said, you're already a millionaire. And she said, I am. I said, yeah, you are. I said, you just don't have any money. I said, so let's do a test. I said, what if I gave you $3 million and all you have to do is you have to get in a machine, and when you come out of the machine, you'll be 54 and I'll be 18 again. I get to be young. You got to be 54, so you're gonna lose 35 years of your life, but you're gonna have $3 million. Would you take that trade? And she said no. I said, there we go. You prove my point. I said, that means you have one thing in your life that's worth millions of dollars. It just it's not you wouldn't. In fact, there's probably no number I could give you that would make you sell your youth. So that means you're infinitely wealthy, And so ultimately, the thing about it is about wealth to me is the first thing you got to admit to yourself is how wealthy you are, how blessed you are. And I'm not saying this to make you feel good. I'm saying it because you got to start there to, and understand you deserve that wealth and that's yours. But then your next problem is like, okay, how do I convert this into money? Right? And so you have time. Time is money. So you go to work every day because that's how you convert time to money. But that's not the only way to do the conversion. There's a million different ways to convert the value of what you have into what you need. But you cannot just stop with the cash and the stocks and all that. So when I'm learning wealth, I incorporate everything else. I incorporate my family into it mentally. So when I do stuff with the kids, there's something happening in the background when it comes to wealth. I incorporate that into fitness. I want to get in shape. I want to run a marathon next year. So I will run and listen to financial podcasts the entire time, right? So it's like, oh, I'm feeding my brain. I'm just taking in knowledge all day, and it's making me feel strong and powerful and capable and efficient. And on top of that, my body's getting in shape. And then I go and I'm spending time with the kids and I'm learning how to be a dad and a better human being. And it all just, to me, it all ties together because that's what money really is. Money is not a destination, money is a tool. Money is a tool for you to improve all those things in your life that matter for you. Money can help you in every, almost damn near every way that you can imagine if you know how to intelligently use it. So think of it like a hammer and a nail. If you get a hammer and a nail in a screwdriver, but you don't know what the hell to do with it, then you can't build nothing, right? So money is like the hammer, the nail, and the screwdriver. So part of the benefit of financial education and the benefit of just knowledge of self and awareness about the world is that when you get that hammer, nail, and screwdriver, you know exactly what to go build with it. Do you understand? Does that make sense? People that have their purpose, people that understand who they are and what matters, you give them $1 million, oh, they already got a plan for that million. People who don't have a purpose, I want you to look at that. Look at people that engage in financial immaturity. I wrote about that in my book. My book is The 10 Commandments of Black Economic Power. Look at what financially immature people do when they get money. What do they do? They at the mall. They throwing it up at the club. They're taking pictures on Instagram, holding the money like it's a phone, like they put it on the plate like it's salad. Which, by the way, never put money in your mouth. Did you know that a dollar bill has more germs on it than a human toilet? Did y'all know that? So like whenever you see somebody that like is so happy to have money that they want to put it in their mouth, that's just nasty. That's like licking a toilet. So don't be licking toilets. That's just nasty. So anyway, so let me keep going. All right. So let's see, Eric. Okay. So Eric, we got your question. Okay, good. Kendall, hey Kendall. How do you assess the government shutdown thus far? Typical shit show from our politicians. I don't think it's going to last forever. I've not seen evidence though that they're getting closer to a resolution. I think that the only danger might be the fact that you have a president that doesn't seem to care how long the government shut down, but maybe that's his negotiating tactic. I would imagine he has something to lose if the government never opens back up. But still, I think that when you throw Trump in the middle of anything, you're gonna get something that you may not expect, right? So I think that this, if it does affect the stock markets, I consider that to be a buying opportunity. I also think that I'm always curious about what year it's going to be where they take it a little bit too far. The Democrats and Republicans are like this married couple and they fight all the time. And you're like, okay, at what point are they just going to go over the top? Somebody going to get killed. They're going to have a divorce. It's like, it really is War of the Roses. If everybody remembers the movie War of the Roses, about this married couple, they just kept throwing bombs at each other and then eventually they both died. I wonder what's going to happen with America. All right. So, let's see here. All right, so moving on. All right, so the next thing here is the okay, Diane Givens. Good morning. Will the AI conference replay be on sale? Yes, it will be on sale, and so you can definitely participate with that. All right, let's see here. Next. My link said no meeting today, but I hit it anyway. Is this a live recorded? It is on YouTube, so you can definitely watch it on YouTube for sure. All right. Chanel, do me a favor and let's not market a lot of stuff in the class. Like that's something we can do separately on our own time. Like so I don't go over in their spaces marketing our stuff. So all right, so let's see. Holly, what are your thoughts on ETFs? The ETF MSTY. It's a dividend payout, but the dividend payout's nice, but the stock keeps dropping. That's not a good sign. If you have a company that has a big dividend payout, but the company's struggling, that's not typically a space you want to be if you're looking for good dividend paying stocks. Let's see. Good morning, Doc. Sold a call on 250 shares on UUU at 2031. Okay, that's a better question for the options class, actually. So log in and leave that question for me, but there's a lot of details there, and I don't want to throw that off. I don't want to throw off anybody that doesn't understand what's going on. But UUUU, energy fuels. I do own that company, and it's made a lot of money, and I plan to own it for a long time. And so that's a good answer on that one. But then also, I think you put that question in side class, so I did answer that yesterday as well. Let's see here. What do you think about CONY, a Coinbase ETF. I don't know anything about CONY. I do know I like Coinbase as a company. I would be really careful about leveraged ETFs and leveraged assets, though, because leverage is what gets you in trouble. Leverage, a lot of times people leverage is your friend when the market's doing really well. So what it can do is it can allow you to create astronomical amounts of money very quickly. Like there was that woman in our group who told me her son, her 12-year-old son, took $2,000 and now he has $70,000. So he did that, and he did that using options and leverage and all that. And I think that's great. But at the same time, that doesn't typically happen. And the thing about leverage that you got to be really careful about is leverage, it puts a time limit on your ability to be successful if you're not, careful. So a person who doesn't have leverage can wait forever for an investment to show its potential. They can live, they can survive the downturn and sit there and just wait another year or two for things to clear up. A person that has a lot of leverage can't do that, because if the value of the asset drops too much, you're gonna get a margin call. So you're trying to deep dive on this stock and go deep sea fishing, but the bank will only go so far with you before they feel like their capital is put at risk. Like if you heard about that liquor store, or that, not liquor store, I shouldn't call it that. That was the wrong way to describe it. The liquor brand, Uncle Nearest. Their problem with the bank was that the bank felt that the issues with the company's collateral, the value of the collateral, put their capital at risk. And so when they see that happen, they're like, "No, we're not going to wait this out with you. We're not your ride or die. The bank is not going to ride or die with you. Your sibling might, maybe if you're lucky, your spouse might, God will ride or die with you. Your mama will ride or die with you. But most of the time, a co-investor that sees too much distress will eventually evacuate the building, right? So you may not have a wife that's going to wait while you spend 10 years overcoming your crack addiction and you become, a millionaire, right? So basically, the same thing is true with business. When you go into too much leverage and you've taken on all this debt and you've used a lot of margin, and the value of that asset drops, then what will happen is you'll get a margin call. And all that pretty much means is that is the banker saying, okay, pour in some more money and build your equity back up, or we're out of here, right? And so literally, this is one of the benefits though of being an equity investor. When you decide like, hey, look, I don't want to use a lot of debt. I just want to use, either no debt or minimal debt, then you have more control over the investment, right? So all money is not good money. All debt is not good debt. All debt is not bad debt. So debt should always be used carefully. Right now, lots of people are using debt, and that is another danger of the economy. So here's the deal. Here's what's really putting the economy at risk right now. If this thing tanks, if this market tanks by 10, 15, 20%, there's some probability that even though you have millions of people that love to buy the dips, right? That's what we're trained to do because it's worked really well for 15 years. Um, it won't matter for some people. Some people will say, "I want to buy the dip, but I can't." Do you understand? Like the kid who says, "I want to stay out and play, but my mama said I got to come in when the street lights come up." And so basically, you'll have people that will say, "Yeah, I want to buy the dip. I want to wait out the storm, but I can't because I got a margin call, which means I have to sell into this distressed market. I don't want to do it, but I have to." So there are mechanical reasons for market crashes, and this is one of those scenarios where you could easily see that happening. You could easily see everything drop. And then suddenly, next thing you know, it's dropping even further and faster because everybody's like, I got to get out of here. I can't hold out. It doesn't matter how I feel. Right. So just keep that in mind when debt can be freedom or debt can be slavery. It depends on the environment. It depends on how you use it. Debt can be freedom in the sense that it can propel you and increase your wealth very quickly. And debt is leverage, by the way. They're kind of similar to each other. But debt can be slavery because when things go bad, you are beholden to the boss, and the boss is the person who controls the capital. Do you understand? So it's up to you to decide how you want to play that, but that's really what it is. All right. So Kashif, hey Doc, would you say it's the best thing to do for a young black man who doesn't want to go back to school but wants to achieve financial security? Go back to school, but that don't mean you got to go pay for it. That don't mean you have to go to an educational institution. Go back to school means picking up knowledge every day on the things that matter for you. That's the best school you'll ever get. School of life. Like really, the best way to educate yourself and to educate a child is like this, in my opinion. um to hell with people giving you some program and telling you like, oh, this is what you need to learn. Look at your life, look at where you want to be, learn about that, learn where you want to be and what you want to become, and then go get an education that is consistent with where you want to be. Too many people go to school. They're like, here, go to this school. Okay, we'll go to, and you're taking all these classes. And don't, I remember being in school and taking a class on Irish peasants or something from the 18th century. What the hell my black ass gonna benefit from learning about the lifestyle of 18th century Irish peasants? You know what I learned from that class? I learned that they used to drink a drink called Boney Clabber. And you know what Boney Clabber is? Boney Clabber is when you take some cow's milk and you let it rot in your front of your house, and then you put cow's blood in the milk. So you take this rotten milk and you put cow's blood in it and you mix it together and it looks like a strawberry shake, but it sounds like it'll make you vomit. And somehow these weird ass white people drink this crap. I'm like, what is happening? Maybe they put strawberries in it or something to make it taste better, but that's just nasty. That's gross. But I never forgot that. To what benefit does me knowing about Boney Clabber have in my life other than the fact that I get to tell an entertaining story 30 years later? Absolutely nothing. I would have been better off learning how to start a business. That would have helped me because I couldn't pay no damn bills when I was 19 years old. That's what I needed to know. So learn the stuff that you need to learn. You ain't got to pay money to go to school. So just and learn from people that you think can give you what you need to get what you're trying to get to. That's you get in a car, you don't get in a car just so you can drive. You get in a car because you have a goal, you have a destination. I got to get to work. I got to get to the mall, right? So you don't get in the car and then say, I'm driving now. I wonder where I'm going to go. Or I'm driving, I'll just follow whatever road is in front of me, wherever someone tells me to go. That's not a good way to drive. No, you think about it. Like, okay, I got to get to Pookie's house by 2 o'clock, and Pookie lives over in the west side. So let me go ahead and map it out and get in the car, and I'm gonna go to Pookie's and get there by 2. Do you understand? So start with the end in mind. That's a math technique. They call that dynamic optimization. That's actually how Jeff Bezos decided to start Amazon. He's a very mathematical guy, and he talked about two things. One, starting with the end in mind, and then figuring out what steps you have to take now to get to the end that you're aiming for. And then number two, he used a strategy called regret minimization, because he concluded accurately, he's a very smart man, he concluded that in your life you're going to have regrets. Everybody does, because hindsight's 2020. And he said, so my goal is not to eliminate regrets, because you can't do that. He said my goal is to minimize regrets. And so what he concluded was, he said, what am I more likely to regret when I get to my deathbed? Am I gonna, because he had a good job. He was making hundreds of thousands of dollars a year, right? So he didn't start Amazon out of desperation. People told him a lot of what you're being told, like, don't quit that good job, right? So he had a great job. He was making hundreds of thousands of dollars, and he was like, what am I going to regret more? Am I going to regret starting Amazon even if I fail, or am I going to regret never doing it at all? And he realized he would have greater regrets not trying than he would by trying and failing, because he'd already sort of factored failure into his business model, right? So failure is a possibility. So you got to ask yourself those questions. All right, so let's see. Dr. Boyce, the YouTube video froze this morning. Can you put the link in the chat for the list of stocks? Yeah, I can do that. And I'm sorry about that. It was really funny. I was on YouTube, and literally, and I'll put the list in the chat. And this is a list of AI stocks that are overlooked. So here's the list right here. I think I might have put it in there earlier, but I'll put it in here again. But yeah, it just froze, and I don't know what happened. I had to reboot my whole computer and everything, and it was kind of weird. All right, so let's see. Melvin, if you can't make the AI conference, will the replay be available? Yes, we will make the replay available 100%. Armis, the bare minimum I need to start a Robinhood account, I think it might be like $5 or something. I think anybody can start investing with small amounts of money within the current state of the world. Do you think? Dr. Vibe, my man, Dr. Vibe is out of Canada. He has a great show. Everybody, can y'all go look up Dr. Vibe and go support this man's show? This man, he's got followers, but I think he deserves to have a billion followers. And he's a really nice person. and he's super smart, and he then that's probably his biggest crime is that we don't like smart black people. We only like ignorant stuff. So it's I don't know, not we, us, but you know what it is, right? So look up Dr. Vibe, Vibe. So can y'all do that for me? Because this I like this guy a lot. I really want to see him do well. All right. So anyway, look up his show. It's really good. All right. So with the current state of the world, do you think there is anything other than stocks that we should invest in? Yeah, I think diversification is good. I think that having your money spread into things like real estate. Real estate lately has looked pretty bad compared to stocks. In fact, a lot of people are not buying homes because they're putting the money in the stock market, and because the stock market has done so well. But that's not a given. That's not gonna likely continue forever. So there we go. So that's my thought on that. Yeah. So real estate. I think if you have a business, that you're passionate about, putting a little money into the business is good. And then also remember, stocks is not the only type of stock-like investment you can make, right? You got stocks and you got crypto. Let me think here. And even stocks, even with stocks, there's different types of stocks. So stocks are what like what they would call a securitized version of the world. So any part of the world you want to invest in geographically or demographically, you can use the stock market to get there. It's almost like what tokenization is going to be. Tokenization is one of the next big things that's going to happen, where they're going to take everything in the world and they're just going to tokenize it. So anybody can buy tokens and get ownership of different assets through these tokens. So with stock, if you want to do real estate, you can look at real estate investment trusts. If you want to invest in Africa, there's ETFs that invest in Africa. If you want to invest in tech, there's stuff out there for tech. I just gave you that list of some AI stocks, healthcare, all that stuff. So I would spread across just different industries, um, different sectors, different geographies, and spread your money out as much as you can. All right, so Rhonda, Black AI Enhanced. Yes, if you go to blackaiconference.com, Black AI Enhanced is the code word to get the discount. I don't know if the discount's still available though. They were supposed to end it yesterday, but it may be available, may not be. But blackaiconference.com is the website. Kimberly Johnson, when is it a good time to set my investment account to margin? A good time to set it to margin. It depends on when you want to use margin. If you want to use it now, then I guess you could go in and set your margin settings. If you're stuck on that, just talk to your broker, whoever, Fidelity, Schwab, whoever, or Robinhood. Just talk to the customer service. They can definitely help you with that. AJ, when you say pass the stocks on to your kids, does that mean the money is never withdrawn? No, no. How do you benefit from the money in the stocks? Okay, that's a great point. Well, what you can do is if you have an account that has stocks in it, you can actually borrow against that money. Like you can do a collateralized loan. Like if you go to, I'm doing it right now with Merrill Lynch. I have some money there, and I want to go into the yacht charter business. I want to get a yacht and rent it out, and I think I'm gonna call it like the B1 or something. Or my wife was saying we should call it the Bolisha, so I'm not sure. But anyway, I'm gonna borrow against my stocks to get the money because you could get really great terms on the loan, and it doesn't require you to sell any of your assets. That's how people like Elon Musk raise money to do new businesses and stuff like that. So rich people do that. They call it buy, borrow, and die. So rich people buy stuff, they don't really sell it unless they have to, and when they need money, they borrow against it. So that's something you can look into. A good class to start off with stocks, drboystockmarket.com. The first month is free. We meet today at 12. You can talk to me directly. We talk about stocks for an hour and once a week, and we also have just a ton of curriculum and books and material. And I've been running this class for about 7 or 8 years, and I tend to hoard stuff, meaning that you can go back and watch stuff that I did in 2018 in this class. So drboystockmarket.com. And also, if you sign up one person in your household, you can bring the whole family. So it's buy one, get five free. So I not only do we allow you to bring your family, we actually encourage it so that you have other people to invest with, to learn with, and to grow with. It's better to do it together than it is to do it by yourself. Hello, Dr. Boyce. Good day. I have $1,000. Where should I put it now? I would go with an ETF, maybe VOO or SPY, or if you like AI, AIQ is a good one. Tanya, I'm a furloughed single mother with 20,000 in savings. What do you suggest I do to try to make my money grow? I was comfortable investing until Trump got in office. Now the market's so volatile that it scares me. Great point. Well, Trump is going to bring the volatility for sure, but the market has just done extremely well in the last few months. And I would say this. you know, the reason my wife helped me to create the first ever Black financial therapy department is that we found that a lot of people were losing wealth because we have this financial trauma, this fear of investing. My grandmother had it. My grandmother, who that's the Panther is my grandmother. The Panther's name is Felicia, and basically, she didn't invest because of that. And my grandmother probably lost $1 million because she never put money in the stock market. And I get it. She was born during the Great Depression. There's reasons to be afraid for sure. But still, though, there are black people from her generation that did invest and did really well. Like my wife's father was born in the 1940s, shortly after my grandmother, and he was an investor, and it built a lot of wealth for him. So, I would say number one, my wife, she has a book club and sessions on mental health and stuff like that. As part of the Black Business School. Her website is coachingwithdralicia.com, coachingwithdralicia.com. So feel free to go there if you want to talk to someone. And then also, she brings in financial anxiety training into what we're doing in the Black Business School to help you learn how to calm down when you invest. Investing isn't going to work if you freak out. It's like anything else. If I go into a job interview and I'm scared to death and I sweat and I act crazy in the interview, it's not going to be a good interview. If I want to go on a date with a girl and I'm scared to death, it's not going to work very well. I'm not going to be my best self. If you invest and if you're in a relationship and you are easily triggered, like you go off and you start beating people up or you run away because things get hard, then you probably shouldn't start a relationship. So I think that investing is a lot like what dating is supposed to be. Before you go in, make sure that before you go in, be ready to win. That rhymes. Those are bars for you. I would really work on sort of understanding like that New Edition song, "Sunny Days." Everybody loves them, but tell me, baby, can you stand the rain? Investors who can't stand the rain don't usually get the sunshine. The people who are always trying to avoid any degree of discomfort, any degree of concern or worry, usually don't do well in the market because what happens is they step out, they pull their money out, and then they miss out on the biggest recovery. Like, for example, Friday, you had a major crash, major dip. What happened on Monday? Kaboom, right? So, what happens if Friday you freaked out and you started selling everything? Well, then you would miss out on the recovery. The recovery is the best part. The recovery is the financial version of makeup sex. Anybody have a relationship where you get in a big fight and then next thing you know how it is. We were all in our 20s, right? And that's the thing. So why would you go through the fight and not enjoy the makeup sex at the end? Like that's that's don't do that. Like you earned this, right? So what I would say to you is um when you pick a stock, research it, take your time, think it through. But when you jump in, get your portfolio and you got to be kind of committed to it. One example would be I told you my story about my cannabis stock, my cannabis ETF, YOLO. YOLO tested me. I had to spend 5 years investing in that freaking ETF, and that thing kept dropping and dropping and dropping. But I had a thesis. My thesis was that eventually they were going to legalize cannabis. That's not a complex idea. Like eventually they're going to realize this greedy government's going to realize they can make tax money by taxing people who smoke weed. Why not? And it didn't work out. The Biden administration was doing something over here, and then Trump comes in. The Republicans, they don't like cannabis that much. But then all of a sudden, so I'm buying this stock. I kept buying, buying, buying as it was dipping, dipping, dipping. And then suddenly a couple of good things happened. So the stock goes from like $1.50 to $3. It had been as high as 25. So I felt stupid for a long time. It's like just like I mean it's really like a good long-term relationship. Like if you want to really stay married to somebody like 50 years, just be prepared to feel a little stupid sometimes. Like they always say marriage is 50-50. Marriage ain't no damn 50-50. Marriage can be 90-10 sometimes where you hold it together with duct tape and shoestring and feeling like an idiot the whole time, right? Really, really. All your friends are like, why would you stay and deal with all of that, right? And it's because you have like this thesis, this general idea of like what you're trying to do and you're committed to it. And I'm not saying everybody should be or shouldn't be. I'm just saying that's just what it is. I believe me, I watched my parents stay married 50 years. It wasn't no damn fairy tale. We got to get that out of our head. So owning stock is not a fairy tale. If I commit to a portfolio, then I got to be committed for 5 or 10 years. Warren Buffett said that if you're not prepared to own a stock for 10 years, you shouldn't even own that damn stock for 10 minutes. What are you even playing around with it for if you're not prepared to ride the donkey to the end? If you ain't ready to ride that horse, then don't get on it. Just stay on the sidelines. And but the problem is if you stay on the sidelines, you're gonna miss out. But then you could also ride a different horse. So maybe if you are more conservative, you could say, well, I don't want to ride the Bronco. I'll ride the safer horses. Let me ride the Microsoft. Let me ride the Coca-Cola. Let me ride the Exxon Mobil. Let me ride and there are companies out there like that. They're not going to make you a ton of money, but they're not going to lose you a ton of money either. And that's okay too, right? So if I'm sitting there and I've got the 20,000 sitting there, I would definitely not let it just sit there. That's for sure. I would put it to work somewhere because your money should be working for you. But not all of it. Maybe 10 of it or 15 of it, and the other five put in an interest bearing, checking account or something, right? You can be conservative. Don't think you have to always roll the dice to be an investor. Yvette, do we need to be enrolled in the stock market program now to participate in Tuesday's power play session? Yeah, if you're enrolled, yeah, that's for students in the stock market program. So if you go to drboystockmarket.com, the link is in there. The link, Chanel changes the link out about once every 6 weeks, and that's what happened. The link changed, and I know that it shifted some stuff. But and really, if you were in there and you weren't enrolled, that's okay. Like we'd like for you to come in and to see that it's legitimate, that it's actually adding value. But we can't do that forever just because to run the Black Business School, it does cost money. So everything can't be free. But if I could do everything for free, if somebody came along and wrote us a check for $100 million, then we could do everything for free. But unfortunately, when you're building an educational institution, you have to make a deal or negotiate with those that you're seeking to benefit. And our negotiation is, look, we got so many things that are free. We would do every single morning. We do the morning class for free. You can get a lot of value from that. But then if you want more and more specific things, you want us to go do deep dives and private sessions, things like that. There has to be a fee attached just like the University of North Carolina can't run, for free, and they're getting money from the government. So imagine institutions like ours, they get no money from the government, get no money, and we don't take corporate money. We walk away from corporate money. We have to have some sort of business model to back that up. Because if you don't have a solid business model behind an institution, that institution will either die or it'll become controlled by somebody who does have the money. That's what's happened to a lot of your HBCUs. That's why a lot of HBCUs can't do what needs to be done because they have to be beholden to their benefactors, which might be Trump or Biden or a corporation or Mackenzie Bezos or whoever. Okay. And that's not how we operate here. Right. So that's just literally what it is in a nutshell. Let's see here. Terrell, what financial podcast do you listen to? I listen to a lot. There's a Barron Streetwise podcast. There is Morning Brew Daily. I love that. Those guys are funny. I watch a lot of Bloomberg. I watch a lot of CNBC. I read just stuff. I just take it all in, just whatever. I just devour information. All right. So what I'm gonna do is, Linda, you said the code isn't working for you. That might be because the code expired, so I'm very sorry about that. But it is blackaiconference.com. So I think that code was available up until yesterday. Let's see. Okay, so I'm gonna get out of here, guys. So yeah, it's tomorrow. You got an email that tomorrow's meeting is canceled. I don't think tomorrow's canceled. Tomorrow's Wednesday. Thursday is canceled because Thursday I have to fly. We got to go down and pick up the baby at college because she's a little sick. Mama's worried, so we got to go handle that. But here's the link to the list of AI stocks that are overlooked. You can click on that. And then also here, if you want to join us at the AI conference this weekend and talk to the experts, you can go to blackaiconference.com and I'll grab the link to the conference and put that in there too, in case you want to go directly to the link. And that's going to start on Friday and it's going to go all weekend. And each day we start at noon, so you don't have to wake up early or anything like that. So, all right. So everybody have a great day. God bless you. Thank you guys for listening. And I'm gonna leave this Zoom open for 1 second so that anybody who misses the link or wants to grab it can grab it. But yeah, I got to get out of here. And today at noon we're gonna meet for stock market training. So if you want to keep the party going, feel free to go to drboystockmarket.com. The first month is free. That's drboystockmarket.com, and you can join us. And I'll send you guys a message on that as well. All right. Have a good day, everybody. Thanks for listening. Talk to you later. Bye bye.